your name? Don't you play this game? You from another land, got you like it's contraband. Tell me what's your name? Don't you play this game? You from another land, got you like it's contraband.
What's up, guys? Keyshawn here, back at you with another new alternate universe video. Now, this is going to be a good one. I thought of this idea because someone wanted me to make another part 2 of Dead by Daylight. What if Deku had all the abilities and the survival abilities by Dead by Daylight, or was in Dead by Daylight? So I will be doing that part 2 later on, give or take, maybe But today we're gonna be doing a new alternate universe. What if this would be? What if Deku was a part of the Legion gang and had limitless access to his brain, like 100% pure access to his brain, or you could say limitless. Now, I got that also idea because I watched a recap of a movie of Limitless about this guy who basically takes a pill. Have y'all watched that show on Netflix about that show Limitless? And then that guy takes a pill and then he unlocks 100% pure access of his brain. He knows all languages just by learning it. He also can remember karate moves and stuff that he watched previously of like movies and videos, or like how heroes use their quirks. Well, you could say like how you see heroes use their quirks and your brain just like puts it as like random dots and stuff. And when you basically take the pill, you get 100% of your access of your brain and you remember everything and you do everything. But yeah, pretty much it's going to be like that. He's going to have 100% pure access of his brain, kind of like Limitless, and he's going to be permanently stuck with it. But how is this going to work? How is this going to happen? And will this be a spicy 18 plus? Well, that's all yes. But let's get started. How are we going to start this off? Well, basically, we're going to start with Deku. Now, we're going to basically have Deku not have a quirk and stuff. And basically, he's just going to be a sick baby when he grows up. Now, this is where Deku is constantly going to school, but this is where he gets his sickness and he basically ends up into a hospital. Now, this is where Deku will thoroughly miss his school days, and he will also, as he goes back to school, but he's gonna have to carry medicine with him. And this is where he's gonna get bullied much worse than the original canon. Now, this is where as he's getting bullied and stuff, he pretty much get bullied by Bakugo being a quirkless, weak person, and so forth, so forth. Now, after all of that happens, this is where his sickness gets worse and he ends up in hospital. Now, we're not gonna do the start of the anime yet. Just gonna be probably like a part 1 of Deku just developing his stuff and all that, and being with the Legion. But let's continue. Pretty much, this is where Deku is pretty much in the hospital, very sick, and he's dying. Now, this is where the doctors ask Inko that they have a person who's interested into Deku and wants to heal him and pretty much help him back up. Now, this is where, as the person says that, this is where the person comes in, and we're just going to call him Dr. Alex. She's going to be named Dr. Alice. Now, pretty much this is where Deku sees Dr. Alice, and Dr. Alice says that she have pretty much funded for him, and pretty much she wants him to be healed and stuff, and she would take care of him now. This is where Inko is happy, crying, thinking of the doctor and stuff. And this is where Dr. Alice says that she will take him to a facility. She can come see him when the time is right, but right now they're going to run tests and get him perfectly healed so he can return back to you in safe arms, which pretty much Inko believes them because, she's, kind and pure-hearted and also love Deku, and she knows that he wants to become a hero. She pretty much sends him there. Now, as that's happening, this is where Deku is getting transferred, and he's end up into this facility where all these other kids are at too, who's sick or, not have like a disability that they can't, be in the society and stuff, and also a person who has like a personality disorder. Now, this is all Deku's there too, and this is where the doctors begin to learn research and also, illegal things on the children, or you could say the children and stuff. And yeah, this is where Deku pretty much is getting run tests on, and this is where the doctor pretty much says this is a drug that will pretty much help, well, unlock 100% of the access of brain and stuff, and pretty much might do some more for him. Now, this is where doctors already healed Deku up, but they kept him as a lab subject to pretty much test their drugs and shit on him. Now, this is where Deku pretty much turns in, well, he will be an anti-hero, you could say, but this is where he pretty much, there was a drug that they hit him with, which it healed him, but it made him psychologically crazy. So basically his whole personality is going to be different, and he's going to be a little bit of a, pretty much a psychopath of killing people, and wants to, murder and be in the face of danger and shit. But, and also he will be more careless and a badass. But more or less, this is where Deku is, got healed, but he's, coughing up blood a little bit, going crazy, and all that. This is where the second procedure happens, and all the kids got hit with the luminous thing, and only half of them have it, and then it wears off. But they was always trying to find a person that can put the full first dose of the thing to unlock 100% of their access brain and alter their brain and make it permanent and stuff. Now, this is where Deku is the final subject, and they do it to him. And this is where he's in immense pain. He's coughing up blood. He's blacking out left and right. And the doctors are looking at him. And also, Dr. Hollis is looking and saying, look like he's going to be a failed. Once he dies, we're going to have to let the mother know. Which pretty much Dr. Hollis says it's okay. We can already just say it was an accident. And when someone came in and just destroyed the facility. And we can just burn it and restart. We have a second, facilities around here and all of that. But this is where it's actually working, and Deku, as he's sleeping, he begins to open up his eyes, and his eyes is in a different color. His eyes is in a unique blue-like state, and he feels so much better, much energizer, and he begins to start looking around, and he begins to see everything, and he begins to see how he can get out, how he can leave. He sees the bolts. He can also see scratch marks of how the key passed. He can see the fingerprints on the key codes. Basically, he remembered how the doctor got in, and also he begins to start his brain be pretty much giving him 100% access, and he's just processing everything. But pretty much, this is where Deku gets up, and Dr. Alice looks and says, look like it worked. And pretty much they begins to do the test on Deku. At first they do some math and stuff, and Deku easily gets that shit done. Gets the highest IQ out of the other students, who is using the limited a thing, but having the same thing to him, but also all that. But this is where they also is trying out Deku with the fitness and what would he do, and pretty much Deku is just blowing their fucking minds. This is where the doctors realize that they have a breakthrough and they have their first ever subject that's, working out well. But this is where one of the villains comes in, and we're gonna say this is All For One. Now, this is where All For One does a whole attack on the facility, which this is where at the exact time Inko is going to see the facility because, it's been a while since she saw her child. And this is where Deku is in the trap thing, so he can't escape or anything. And this is where pretty much the All For One is pretty much going in the facility. Now, this is where he's pretty much breaking in. Half of the scientists are getting murdered and shit, all that, and pretty much just the worst of the worst is happening. Now, this is where Dr. Alice is pretty much trying to get all the files and pretty much send it to the other place where the higher person who funded them is pretty much at, and pretty much she's sending all the files, all the data, and sending one specific person that actually succeeded the project, and it's Deku. Now, as that's happening, this is where pretty much All For One comes in, and he's pretty much laughing, saying, Dr. Alice, I heard you made a new drug, and it was pretty success. I'm here to get it so I can unlock 100% much more in my brain. Which pretty much has Dr. Alice saying that, look like you already destroyed the things and stuff. There's nothing for you here. Which All For One saying, oh no, there is something here for me. You, Dr. Alice, you're the only one who's the head of the research and know everything. And you can help me unlock 100% of my access of my brain. Now, as that's happening, this is where, the villains already dealt with the other scientists and stuff and the guards. And pretty much this is where the test subjects, some of them were running out, some of them ran out and stuff. And also just, just got the fuck out of there. Now, This is where Deku is still just locked in his thing, and pretty much this is where the villains are looking around, and then this is where they see Deku and they say, "Hey, Awful One, boss, come over here." Which pretty much, as he's coming, he's saying, "Oh, what is this, Dr. Alice?" As he's holding Dr. Alice by the throat. This is where Dr. Alice is saying, "It's nothing, it's just a sick patient," which pretty much Deku looks at the situation and saying, "What is going on here? And who are you?" Which pretty much Awful One pretty much laughs and says, "Oh, so this kid doesn't look sick at all." Which this is where Awful One looks at him, and Deku looks different. He pretty much sees Deku and he's saying, now why is this kid here? Which he's holding Dr. Alice's neck much harder. This is where Dr. Alice has a pin and stabs Awful One in the hand, which he pretty much drops her. As he drops her, she begins to start running and opening up the key door real quick and telling Deku to run. This is where Deku is running away, and he's finding out the best scenarios to pretty much get out. This is where the villains are chased after him. One of them shoot his quirk nail bullets, or nails as bullets, you could say, and start shooting at Deku. This is where Deku pretty much is predicting where the bullets will go and stuff. And he pretty much dodging all of them and stuff. And where he will die and where he will get injured. And he's pretty much just passing all of them without getting hurt. Now as that's happening, this is where he realized that his body is pretty much falling down because he haven't really exercised or got out the bed or anything and moved around or ate well. So he begins to start falling. This is where he pretty much cuts off the pain off his nerves and begins to get back up and starts running. And he's saying that he's going to have to reactivate them later on. But as that's happening, he's running, and this is where the heroes are coming in and begins to start helping out. Well, starts coming in and helping out and stuff. As that's happening, this is where explosions and stuff starts happening and stuff. And as that's happening, this is where Awful One damaged Dr. Alice in her leg, pretty much blowing off one of her legs, like lower part of her leg, and she's pretty much screaming out in agonizing pain, which Awful One saying, "This is your final offer. Come with me and work with me, or die here. And I just find that data that you hid." Which pretty much Dr. Alice saying, "Go ahead, do it," which Awful One comes in, All Might comes in, punching Awful One out the way. Not doing damage to him, but this is where Awful One sees All Might is pretty much holding his side, what he did to him, and he's pretty much laughing, saying, "I'm gonna leave. You're not worth the fighting." And he pretty much gets out of there. This is where half the villains get out of there, and some of them got, defeated. As that's happening, this is where Inko is, devastated of the facilities in flames and stuff, and trying to look for her son, and calling out Deku. This is where Deku is injured in his face, so he's gonna have a cut on his nose. But this is where he looks, and pretty much he sees his mom and says, "Mom," which pretty much Inko runs immediately, hugs Deku, saying, "Oh my god, I thought you was dead. I thought something was worse happened." Deku pretty much gives her a smile and saying he's perfectly fine, and she's saying, "Your nose is cut," which pretty much Deku says, "Don't worry, I cut off the pain off my nose, so I can't really feel it. But let's go to the hospital. And can we also go home after I get treated?" Which pretty much she smiles and says, "Yeah." Now we're gonna do a little bit up now, and we're gonna have a 15 on Deku, but it's not gonna be the start of the anime because I still wanna do the Legion thing. But pretty much this is where Deku's 15, and Deku is pretty much with a different crowd now, and he wears a mask with them. Well, pretty much he has a mask, and he pretty much created it, but he always puts it back to take it with him because he doesn't want people to see his face of the scar, because he also don't like people looking at him, because there is an organization that's after him because he is the only subject that's left. And also, yeah, you could say. But pretty much, this is where Deku is pretty much going, and he's hanging out with these friends, and this is the Legion. So pretty much, this is where he meets the gang group and the leader. And he's pretty much saying what up, and they pretty much give him dap and stuff, and they start going out, hanging out. Deku regularly don't drink booze a lot, or smoke, because he pretty much knows that if he drinks too much booze, he will have episodes of blacking out and not knowing where he's at and stuff. But pretty much, he has a pretty fit body because, like I said, he unlocked 100% of his brain, so he knows how to do the perfect diet, So basically, he's like 10 steps ahead of himself and ahead of everybody. So no one can really fuck with him right now. But pretty much this is where Deku was hanging out with the group and stuff. And this is where the leader of the gang saying that we should make a group. We should be a group of gang people. That's only cool to us. Which Deku's saying, oh yeah, what's that be? As Deku was drinking a little bit. This is where the leader says, how about we be called the Legion? A gang of misfits, the outcasts, the freaks, the people who's not accepted in this world. Which pretty much Deku looks at him and says, you know what? I like that. I think I join. Which pretty much Legion, he pulls out the mask and gives each and every one a mask, including his girlfriend with the pink hair, a mask too. Which, as she likes it, she pretty much says, I like this mask. Which we're gonna give her the rat mask, not no regular mask or like crack up mask. We're gonna give her the cool rat mask. But pretty much this is where she puts it on to have fun with it, and this is where the Elysian says that he forgot Deku's mask. Which Deku pretty much says it's okay. He already has the mask, and it's a unique black rabbit mask. Well, yeah, unique rabbit mask that has like the rabbit face, not like a whole like that, but like kind of like it's like the Legion mask, but it's like a rabbit, pointy ears up, and then a rabbit face, you could say. But pretty much this is where the Legion says that's a cool ass mask, which pretty much Deku does a creepy hip hop as he twists his neck, does his neck like back and forth, saying hip hop, which pretty much they're pretty much saying that is creepy. Which Deku is saying what? That's my legendary sound. Which pretty much this is where they laugh and joke around. But this is where they start doing some misfits and stuff. And Deku is like the mastermind of it, helping them strategize of how to get out of there and stuff and all that shit. But we're gonna continue, and this is where as Deku's hanging out, and they get more groups of kids that's like outcast and misfits, or like from a door, from like orphanage and shit. And as that's happening, this is where Deku pretty much is like hanging out with the gang leaders, pretty much talking about himself. And this is where he pretty much tells Deku that this is pretty great, and he's glad that Deku's here with him, and they're actually brothers. Which Deku's happy that he actually has a legitimate of a friend that's like really cool with him and stuff and all that. Now, as that's happening, this is where pretty much the Legion begins to plan out their next robbery, which they're going to rob a store. Now, as that's happening, this is where the Legions begins to start going in, planning out, wearing a mask and stuff, and this is where the store manager pretty much has a gun and loads it up and says, "What the hell are y'all doing here in my store?" Now, this is where the Legion of people they start raising head, the group of kids, and I'm gonna only say like these, 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 people are in the store, and the group of kids are just being looked out. This is where one of the kids look out and say, "Oh shit, the guy has a gun," and they're holding him up. The guy with the gun is pretty much holding him on pinpoint. But this is where the one with the hoodie and that skull mask, he comes right behind the store manager because he didn't find him, and pretty much he stabs him in the back. And as he stabs him in the back, he's pretty much down on the ground, and they're both, all of them is shocked and looking. And this is where the leader says that if y'all do it, we're gonna be here. We're gonna actually all be stuck doing this. So, am I gonna do it by myself, or are y'all gonna join in? Which this is where they begin to all stab him, as the original one. We're just gonna say the original in the story. But as that's happening, the other group of kids join in too and stab them. As that's happening, this is where a person, and we're just gonna say this is where the store helper, and he's a worker too with him, he begins to be shocked and starts running away to tell. This is where as he's running, the group of legions are about to follow him and running after him with the knives until Deku was in the forest because he was taking a leak, but he also saw the whole scenario and what happened. This is where he begins to smile and see the guy run, and he pretty much catch up with the guy and asks, "Hey, are you okay?" Which pretty much the guy is pretty much falls down and he gets back up to turn around and say, "Yeah, I'm okay." Which Deku is wearing his rabbit mask. It says hip hop and begins to start stabbing the guy and slit his throat, you could say. Now, as that's happening, this is where the gang goes in forward to say where he's at, which they see Deku mask is a little bit covered with blood and he's holding a bloody knife, saying he's okay. He already dealt with it, which pretty much they all look at Deku and he's like his blade is a little bit more bloody than usual. Well, more bloodier than theirs. But pretty much this is where Deku tells him to grab the body. He knows how to get rid of the body, which pretty much he has a concoction which he created already, and it's like a salt dosage. He puts it in the guy's mouth, and their bodies start to decay really quickly until they turn into skeleton. And he pretty much tells them that no one's not going to talk about it, no one's not going to say nothing about it. We're all killers now, and there's nothing. So if one falls, everybody falls. So everybody keeps quiet about this, which they all keep quiet about it, and yeah. Now, pretty much the next day, this is where Deku is much different now. His hair, instead of being green, is dark green. His eyes is more like a greenish red color, showing that he's super intelligent, having 100% access to the brain, but he's also a little bit of a psychopath. But he's going to be kind of an anti-hero. Kind of. But pretty much this is where Deku begins to go downstairs, and as he's going downstairs, which he's going to be wearing a jacket and just jeans and boots. Well, yeah, running shoes, you could say. Running track shoes to chase after people. He begins to go downstairs, and Inko tells him to come sit. It's been a while since they talked, which Deku says okay. And as he's eating, Inko asks him, is he okay? Like, has anything been bothering him? Which Deku looks at her and smiling, saying, what do you mean, Mom? Is something wrong? Which pretty much Deku can already predict what she's going to ask him about, and he already prepared it beforehand. And she pretty much asks about his friends, if they're forcing him to do something, because she heard a little bit that they are kind of a bad delinquents, which Deku's saying no, they're not forcing him to do anything, and they're good people. He promised them. He promised them, and he's not doing anything bad. Which Inko says, "Oh, okay." Which pretty much he kisses his mom on the forehead and starts saying he's heading to school. Now, as he's heading to school, this is where we do kind of the start of the enemy, you could say, and pretty much this is where Deku is pretty much opening up his book, and he's looking at all the heroes and he pretty much knows their weakness and stuff by looking at them, and he pretty much saying, if I ruled the world, I could pretty much kill all these heroes, including All Might. After seeing that footage of his holding his side, he's probably weak or something already, which Deck is thinking about it, but he pretty much says, nah, then I'm gonna have to do this and stuff, and he pretty much saying it's just a pain in the ass to try to take over this world. Maybe I should just be like some side hero. I always wanted to be the number one hero, but I can do so much. I could be president if I wanted to. Which, as he's saying that, he pretty much just starts laughing and just walking. Now, as he's doing that, he pretty much closes his book, and the gang leader of the Legion pretty much says, oh, hey, Deku, what up, bro? Which pretty much they start talking to each other as Deku's walking to school. As he's going to school, this is where, as he's going, the gang member Legion saying that they have a deal of the drug they had stole from the previous place, which pretty much Deku saying, oh, a deal, which he pretty much asks Deku, will he be available to, be with them just in case if this shit goes south, which Deku agrees with them and says, yeah, he'll be with them if it goes south. Now, because he's pretty much like their help out guy and stuff, like he's pretty much the one that is like on the team that they really need. But pretty much Deku agrees and says he will be joining them later, but right now he's gonna head to school and pretty much, get some knowledge. But he's basically don't give a shit. He just goes there just to see what's new and stuff, so he doesn't miss out of school life a little bit. But pretty much he goes in. As he's going in, this is where pretty much Bakugo looks at Deku and says, nerd Deku, which pretty much Deku looks at him and pretty much smiles and says, yeah, I know I'm a nerd. Thank you for calling me out. I know I'm intelligent. And he pretty much goes sit down, which Bakugo is getting pissed off and saying, you damn Deku. Which pretty much Deku looks at him with a killing smile and says, Bakugo, if you keep fucking with me, I'm going to hurt you and break your fingers. Or maybe worse, cut them off, which Deku says it in a dark tone. Which pretty much this is where Bakugo fears himself, actually fears for his life, because Deku, he actually knows that Deku will actually do it. He can feel it, you can say. and imagine it, which Deku knows how to fuck up people's brains with physiological and stuff. Like I said, Deku has been doing a lot of research over these years, you could say. But pretty much this is where Deku begins to go in class and stuff, and the teacher starts and stuff. And this is the female teacher, and she's pretty much looking at Deku, and Deku is pretty much just like looking out the window or just falling asleep, which she doesn't disturb him because Deku is pretty much ahead of everybody. He's the smartest of the class, but he pretty much erased the fact that he's the smartest in his class because people like how can I say, he pretty much hangs out with a gang group that everybody knows about, and they don't mess with them because you could say they're the outcast. So they don't believe Deku is extremely intelligent and ahead of all of them and stuff. Like he can actually go to a college university at his age right now. But pretty much this is where the teacher with female teacher is looking at Deku, and she's a nerd girl. You could say a nerd female teacher, and she wears glasses and she got a big ass tits and ass. But pretty much, let's continue. Pretty much this is where she's looking at Deku, and as she's teaching, and this is where she walks up to Deku desk and says, "Mr. Deku, is my class too boring for you?" Which Deku looks at her and smiles and says, "Of course not. It's actually interesting. I just don't need to learn it because I know all this stuff. And plus, ain't you just interested in me and you just wanted to wake me up to see my beautiful eyes and stuff and pretty face?" Which she begins to blush and says, "Be nonsense. Not nonsense," she's basically saying. And she basically starts saying that if you're so smart, start teaching the class then, which Deku says gladly. It's quite boring to just be listening. Now, this is where Deku hops up. He starts teaching class, teaching me more better stuff than the teacher at her own job. And pretty much she is shocked, and everybody's like saying, "Wow, so this makes sense." And Deku says, "Any questions?" Which pretty much they start asking questions and stuff. And Deku starts giving them like tips and, little cheat slips and stuff. And basically helping them get smarter. This is where they're all surprised and actually clapping. Which Deku says, "Thank you, thank you." And he pretty much sits back down. And the teacher is just shocked, saying, "Thank you, Mr. Deku." And pretty much she says that, "I see you after class," which everybody's saying, "Ooh," which Deku's saying, "Yeah, yeah, y'all guys shut up." Which Deku can see through face reactions. She knows that he knows it's something else and it's not really based off him in trouble. Now, after the whole class and everybody leaves, this is where the teacher pretty much talks to Deku, and pretty much she explains to him that she's impressed that he knows all the information in her class, and pretty much she is, tells Deku that he can actually skip a couple grades and just go to college already if he wants to. Which Deku's saying nah, he likes to take his time. But this is where Deku grabs her hand and begins to come forward and kisses her on the lips. Which pretty much she blushes and says, "Mr. Deku, I'm your teacher." Which Deku pretty much says, "Yeah, yeah, just shut up." And he begins to start making out with her more. Now, this is where he knows how to turn on a woman and, fall wet for him. So he's pretty much doing all the precisions and stuff and all that. And he also knows some sex techniques to, get the girl head over heels on him, stuck on him. But pretty much this is where he, does his moves and stuff. And pretty much she begins to moan a little bit as they're making out. And she begins to touch on Deku, and she begins to start, you could say, nibbling on his ear, which he's pretty much saying, "Hey, stop that. That tickles a little bit." Which she's pretty much saying, trying to, saying, "I'm your teacher," which Deku's saying, "It's okay. It's fine." And pretty much Deku's telling her, like, how about they go on the date later on at this food place, which pretty much Deku says that he can provide, which at first she's about to say no, but she agrees, and Deku says, "All right, it's a date after the day," which pretty much this is where we're gonna say later that night, Deku pretty much gets dressed, and he wears his cool ass tire outfit. He pretty much starts heading there. Now, pretty much as he heads there, Deku is pretty much has his mask beside him, and he pretty much just heads to that date place. It's like a taco stand food place, and pretty much Deku pays for the food, and he starts having a date with her, which she pretty much saying she can't believe she's dating her going out on a date with one of her students right now, which Deku's saying that it's okay, it's fine, as long as you keep it secret. Because this is where Deku pretty much says that he's very into her and he pretty much can see stuff that most people can't see. And pretty much Deku can because his brain been altered permanently, so he is higher than any other person. He has very special things that he can do. But pretty much, this is where Deku pretty much says that he pretty much really wants to be intimate with her, which she pretty much starts blushing real hard and saying that they can't do this, which Deku pretty much get close to her and makes out with her again, says that he promised he won't tell, and he really is deeply into her, which pretty much she starts, blushing, but also goes back and kisses Deku. Now, as that's happening, this is where we're gonna say Bakugo takes as a picture of the whole scenario and pretty much is gonna blackmail Deku of it. But it's not gonna go well. Yeah, y'all gonna figure out later. But pretty much this is where after that night, Deku hurry up and heads to the Legion game, which they're saying, Deku, you're a tiny bit late, but let's get going, which they all start going and wearing their masks. Now, as they're all wearing their masks, pretty much Deku is their lookout, but also like the information guy. So he pretty much finds the place that they're supposed to meet at this like old warehouse facility. Pretty much Deku looks all around, and he has a drone for it too. So he pretty much lifts up his drone, look around, see if anything's important and stuff. Which he pretty much sees that it's two guys with guns, and two guys with guns, and pretty much the seller. Which Deku tells the leader tells his friend that it's two guns, and pretty much the dealer, which they said that this is going to be a little bit tough, but they'd be fine as long as the deal go well, and they pretty much keep going. This is where Deku pretty much is also going to be hiding at a certain place, but he's pretty much on top of the thing, quiet as a rabbit, which you can't hear, and he pretty much is just up top, very quiet and just staring down. Now this is where the leader is making a deal, and two other Legion people are just there right behind him, and they're pretty much talking to Deku. I mean, not talking to Deku. They're pretty much just all quiet. And the leader is saying that he got the 12 kilos or the 10 kilos. Now where's the $10,000? Well, actually, yeah, $10,000 that they're going to get, which pretty much the guy brings out the suitcase. But this is where, of course, it goes sour, and the guy says, "Well, I think I'm going to be taking the money and the kilos." And he pretty much tells his boys to point out the gun. Now, this is where the Legion gang member says, I knew it. I knew this was about to happen. And he begins to lift up his hands, which he pretty much do. He separate his two fingers, and he pretty much do the bunny ears thing, which pretty much the seller's saying, what does that mean? What are you doing? Stop what you're doing. Which he's saying, what? I'm just doing this. Which he says, why are you doing rabbit ears? Which pretty much this is where the two guards get stabbed in the neck. One gets stabbed in the neck real quick, and the other one doesn't even know that the other one got killed. And this is where the guy cuts. This is where Deku cuts the other guy 2 ankles, and the guy falls on his knees. And he's about to scream until Deku covers his mouth and stabs him in the throat. And pretty much takes it out. Now this is where Deku looks at the dealer and he begins to say his signature hip hop, and the guy is terrified. Now, as this guy is terrified, he's pretty much saying, wait, we can work things out, which pretty much the leader says, no, we could have worked this out. We could have been good business partners, I get another kilo, I sell it to you, and you give me the 10,000. But I'm afraid you're gonna have to die because you already know too much, and you might get some more boys next time to kill us. So, yeah, no. And he pretty much pulls out his Scorpio weapon, or I forgot what the combat knife he used. But he pretty much, no, I think it's the karambit knife, but pretty much he uses it and he stubs it into the guy's throat. Mouth, and pretty much kills him. Now after that, this is where they take the drugs and the 10,000, and pretty much they start going. This is where Deku says he will hand the bodies, and he pretty much gets disposed of them, and they start leaving. Now later on, this is where they head at the hideout, and pretty much the Legion guy saying that he's glad that Deku's with them, and Deku's saying yeah. Which this is where they start having the party, and spending some of the money to get alcohol, booze, and stuff, and food, and they're pretty much having a party and stuff, and they're all hanging out and all that crap. This is where whether the other this is where the Legion gang member girlfriend calls Deku and pretty much brings him in to have a secret talk to him outside on the pack of me well on the back of me porch. You could say on the porch. Actually, not on the porch, rooftop. And they pretty much start talking to each other. Now, as they're talking to each other, she's pretty much, saying, "Hey Deku, are you feeling okay?" Which Deku said, "Yeah, better than ever." Why? She pretty much just starts thinking and saying, "Have you ever thought of this being someone else instead of doing this, killing and selling drugs and doing all that and making money? Have you ever thought about just wanting to, like, I don't know, be a hero or just like live a peaceful life without murdering someone?" Which Deku looks at her and he can tell what's happening right now. He begins to say, "Are you not? Are you trying to leave this? Are you trying to leave the gang and stuff and live a normal life, a proper life, without worry and stuff and murder?" And she pretty much saying, "Huh? What? No." Which Deku's saying, "Don't lie to me. I also know that you're getting sick and tired of this lifestyle of killing people and stuff, and you feel the guilt, a little bit of guilt of murdering that guy with your boyfriend, right?" Which she's pretty much trying to deny it, but Deku is pretty much looking straight at her with her eyes, point like real close to her face and saying, I know when you're lying and I know when you're telling the truth. And right now you're lying to yourself. Admit it. You don't want to be a part of this gang no more. You just want to live a normal life." When she begins to start sharing a tear, which Deku says sorry to her and pretty much gives her a hug and says that he's sorry for doing too much. But he pretty much tells her that if she doesn't want to be a part of this, you're gonna have to tell him. I tell him that you want to live a proper life and not live in this constant life of murder and being in a gang and stuff. And you want to have a happy life with having children and stuff. Which pretty much she says yeah. And this is where she pretty much comes on Deku and kisses him on the lips, which Deku pushes her away slowly and tells her that they can't do this because he's his brother and you're his girlfriend. So yeah, and pretty much this is where she says yeah, and they pretty much goes back. Now this is where the leader asks what was they talking about, and pretty much Deku tells him that he was talking about what they're gonna give him for his birthday coming this week, which pretty much the the brother, the leader saying, "Oh, y'all don't have to do that," which Deku's obviously saying, "Of course." Now, this is where Deku heads back home, and he pretty much takes some medicine that drives the blood, I mean the alcohol, out his system completely, so he doesn't get bad liver or organs and stuff. Because he been working, so he been doing making a lot of stuff and gadgets and stuff because he doesn't have a quirk. But pretty much this is where he gets a contact on his phone, and it's an unknown message in the phone number saying that if you don't want, well, basically to meet them at some place at this time, which Deku says, I wonder, could they be the facility? Which pretty much he's thinking about the last facility of them testing on him and stuff and trying to think if it's them. But other than that, he pretty much goes to sleep. Now the next day, this is where he's in class and stuff, and this is the start. And pretty much he is talking, well, pretty much doing work and stuff, and he's just sleeping. This is where the teacher comes in and she sees Deku, and Deku pretty much opens up his eyes and sees that she's staring at him. And he does a wave and smile, which she pretty much starts blushing and pretty much gets class started. Now she's getting class started. Deku pretty much is like sleeping until Bakugo does a paper at his head and saying that I know you and the teacher has a relationship, and if you don't want to get in trouble, you meet me up on the rooftop, not telling no one. Which Deku looks at the paper and say, and he just crawls it up and throws it in the trash, making a shot and pretty much throwing it in the trash in a far wide angle. Like he's like his desk is at the back by the window, so he made that far shot. Basically, he calculated it. But pretty much after that, this is where after school, Deku goes all the way up, and he pretty much looks, and pretty much the door gets closed behind him, and he's pretty much cornered by all the boys with bats and stuff and weapons. And Bakugo is saying that I'm getting sick and tired of you, Deku, and your shit. I think it's time for me to hurt you and break your leg caps, and pretty much stopping you. And also, yeah, about me giving you mercy. After I'm done beating the shit out of you, I'm gonna expose you and that teacher, and you're gonna be the outcast of the school, and she's gonna get fired. So say goodbye to your little girlfriend. Which, this is where Deku begins to smile in a creepy grin and looks at Bakugo, saying, "Bakugo, you really gonna do that? Well, I guess we're gonna have to make a little bit of an arrangement deal." Which he says, "Deal? What deal you possibly have out of this predicament?" Which, pretty much, this is where Deku says, "How about this? I don't cut off one of your fingers. I don't break none of your fingers, and I won't cut none of y'all up and give y'all most severe scars that y'all can't never ever be recognized again. And for in change, I will spare y'all, and y'all give me the phone, and we can all live peace and happily." Which Bakugo getting pissed off about and saying, "You know what? I'm tired of your shit and making deals. It's time for you to die." Which all the students start chasing after him, like the delinquents and stuff. This is where Deku begins to start pulling out pulling out his weapon, and he starts. Well, he pulls out a weapon, and it's not a knife because he's not gonna really cut them off. But he pulls out two batons, and he begins to start beating the absolutely shit out of them. He's fucking doing combat like karate, like he doing UFC. He mixing up like Bruce Lee, you could say. But pretty much after that, this is where Deku attached the two batons together as a nunchucks and start beating more absolutely shit out of them. Now after it's done, Deku has not get scratched once, and Bakugo saying, "What the? How did you?" Which Deku saying, "You want some Bakugo? Come get it." Which pretty much just where Bakugo creates his explosions, and he starts throwing an explosion at Deku, and Deku already knows Bakugo weakness and stuff, and he begins to start dodging. Yeah, and he begins to start dodging his attacks. Now, as he's dodging his attacks, pretty much this is where Deku unsplit them apart and begins to combat Bakugo in close hand combat. Now, this is where he knows Bakugo can't really create close combat with his explosions because he knows how Bakugo fight. He's seen him fight before on a video and realized that he's very shitty. He's just an aggressive fighter and he knows how to counter his shit. Now, this is where Bakugo's throwing explosions and stuff, and Deku is just cornering him. Well, pretty much just combating him, dodging his attacks, just absolutely countering and crushing bowling him. Just fucking him up, you could say. Now, after Bakugo is like breathing real hard, this is where Deku throws a baton at Bakugo's knee, making him do a fall down on the ground, well, with one E, holding his knee. And this is where Deku pretty much kicks Bakugo right in his face, pretty much kicking half of his teeth out his mouth. Now, as that happens, this is where Bakugo is trying to get back up, which Deku begins to be on Bakugo's back, knee him in the back, hurting him, and begins to start punching Bakugo in the face over and over again, pretty much making his face look like an ugly ass pope a little bit. Which this is where Bakugo's coughing up blood, and Deku begins to say, "All right, let's start with the torture now, because I told you not to do that. I want you to tell me all your truth, and if you don't, I'm gonna make it much worse than you can ever imagine before. So, shall we get going?" This is where Deku breaks one finger of Bakugo's, and Bakugo begins to start screaming in agonizing pain. And Deku pretty much rearranges it back and pretty much breaks it again, which Bakugo is screaming. This is where Bakugo is telling Deku to stop. He's sorry, which Deku begins to tell him to shut the fuck up and tell him how he know about the relationship, which Bakugo says that he saw him with the teacher and what he did, which Deku breaks two fingers, and Bakugo starts going out for shock until Deku rearranges it again and wakes him back up. This is where pretty much Deku tells him where's his phone at and how many people has the picture of it, which pretty much he tells Deku that he only has the picture, no one else has it. And pretty much this is where he explains that he didn't want to give it to anyone else because he knew that he didn't know Deku was as strong. Well, pretty much he told Deku that he thought Deku was just a weak nerd who would just get beat up by them, and he pretty much will just have his way of making him his bitch again. Which pretty much Deku says, "Oh, you thought I was your bitch," and he breaks 3 fingers of Bakugo, making him scream out. Which Deku refixes his fingers again. Now, as that happening, this is where Bakugo is crying and asking for forgiveness. Which Deku says, "All right, I guess I give you forgiveness, but I'm gonna delete everything off your phone." And pretty much he deletes everything off Bakugo's phone, and he breaks it too. Breaks his phone. Now, after that, this is where Deku pretty much gets up and says, "Whew, that was pretty much a good fight." But this is where Bakugo's about to get up until Deku kicks him in the face and says, "I haven't forgiven you. I just said that just to make you feel less test up for that kick," which Bakugo's pretty much down on the ground, knocked. Now, as that's happening, this is where Deku starts walking downstairs, and pretty much this is where the teacher asks Deku, "Is he okay?" Um, he heard him was walking with the group of boys, which Deku says, "Oh, it's perfectly fine." He just was pretty much talking to him, and they pretty much left. Which the teacher's saying, "Are you sure?" Which Deku's saying it's perfectly fine. He kisses her on the cheek, saying, and she pretty much starts freaking out, saying that they're in school. Which Deku says there's no one nearby them or even close, and he pretty much says that he's gonna go to the nurse's office to pretty much let the nurse that someone got injured. Which she's saying, "Oh, okay," and she pretty much smiles and says bye. Now this is where Deku pretty much heads to the nurse's office and pretty much begins to start um, talking to the nurse and saying that he pretty much was in a self defense fight, which Bakugo and they're pretty much is all in a blade poke. And can she pretty much get them? Which she's saying, "Oh my god," which Deku's saying, "Yeah." And she pretty much tells Deku that she will handle it. And Deku says that to please not tell him that he was in it, which she says it's okay. And she basically don't tell. But pretty much this is where Deku is heading home, and as he's heading home, he takes the shortcut bridge. And as he's taking the shortcut bridge, this is where the sludge villain attack. Now, like I said, Deku has many gadgets and stuff in his sleeves and stuff, and many, little toys that he wants to try out, but he never could half the time. This is where he sees the sludge villain coming right at him, and he sees it very slow. Like, he sees it in slow. So, like, very slow motion. And he's pretty much saying, I wonder, should I use that weapon? Yeah. And he pretty much jumps back, and he pretty much throws a little casted of ice, and it says uh, H2O and ice. Well, XL ice, you could say. And pretty much he throws it at the sludge villain. This is where the sludge villain pretty much gets hit by it, and he instantly freezes into ice. Which Deku said, so it was effective. Not bad. Now after that, this is where All Might comes in, and he says, "I am here." Which Deku looks at All Might and says, "Oh shit, it's All Might. Hey." Which pretty much All Might saying, "Ah, hello, young kid." Well, young, you could say young student or something like that. But pretty much, this is where Deku asks for All Might's autograph, and pretty much All Might asks if Deku did this, which Deku says, "Ah, yeah, he did." Which he ain't gonna lie to All Might. Which All Might says, "Oh, what quirk do you have?" Which Deku says, "Oh, he doesn't have a quirk. He just made this little potion, this little things." Which he shows him like a tube, and it says H2O oxygen. Which pretty much All Might saying, "Wow, impressive. You can become a powerful engineer to stop villains." Which Deku said, "Yeah, but he just wish he had a quirk so he can, do some things." Which All Might saying, "Oh, okay." And Deku pretty much gets the autograph and just leaves. This is where All Might thinks about the kid and saying, maybe I should make him my successor. And he thinks about it. And as he's thinking about it, he says, "You know what? I see some potential in him. I want him to be my successor." And he runs and pretty much says, "Hey, kid, do you want to have a quirk?" Which Deku thinks, and he sees that All Might has something for him, and he's thinking what it could be. Well, no, he's predicting. He knows what it is. He pretty much says, "Yeah, I really want it," and he's doing his perfect acting, and pretty much this is where All Might says, "Well, if you want this quirk, come to the beach. Come to the beach for 2 months, and he will pretty much see if he's worthy to be his successor." Which Deku, shows his overreacted excitement, saying, "For real? hell yeah, and all that. This is where pretty much All Might sees Deku with Smiteman and says that don't forget, which Deku says yeah. Now, this is where, as Deku's going, he's pretty much decided that smiling, and he begins to start laughing, like hilariously laughing, saying that he's going to give me his quirk, his all for one, his one for all quirk, which he starts thinking and saying that that's a that's going to be OP quirk, which he thinks about it and he says, oh well, we're just gonna have to come tomorrow to see what he's gonna have us do. Well, have me do. Pretty much, he thinks about it. Now, after that, pretty much this is where Deku begins to head home, and she pretty much gets a phone. Well, pretty much this is where Inko talks to Deku and says that did he made Bakugo like this? Which Deku looks and he says, "Oh my God, he's told on me. That snitching bitch." Which he pretty much thinks in his head. But this is where Deku says, "Yes, mom, I did do it." Which pretty much Inko goes for a smack to smack Deku in the face until Deku catches it, and he pretty much explains why he did it, and he pretty much explains that Bakugo was about to seriously injure him and make him cripple, just like last time. Which pretty much Inko says, "What do you mean?" Which Deku begins to start crying in tears and starts saying that he didn't have a choice. He didn't want to be weak again. He didn't want to be a useless boy and a son, which he, doing the 10 out of 10, 99 perfect acting and full, like the perfect, full off the books. And she's pretty much just starts crying too, saying, "No, Deku, it's my fault for trying to hit you. I didn't know he was trying to hurt you," which Deku begins to start saying, "It's okay, mom. I knew that you think that me and Bakugo is friends like that, but we're not friends." He been said that the moment he got his quirk, which pretty much Inko feels very dumbstruck and hurt that that has happened, and she pretty much calls Bakugo's mom and have a talk with her. Oh my god! I'll be back. This is going to be a short break. Okay, I'm back, but pretty much this is where Inko talks to Bakugo's mom, and they pretty much have a conversation about it, and pretty much this is where they have a meetup. Now, this is where Bakugo and his fingers is bandaged up, and his face is kind of covered and stuff, covering his eye and all that. This is where pretty much Deku is pretty much looking at Bakugo and smiling with a devilish grin, scaring Bakugo. This is where Bakugo mom begins to talk to Deku, and Deku begins to say his sincere apology for overdoing it, but he just felt the rage and hatred of Bakugo for what he did to him for all those years back, and he still sees him as a friend, showing fake tears and acting, which pretty much Bakugo mom feels very sad for Deku, and pretty much gets mad at Bakugo and says, "Why have you been doing this to him and stuff for all these years?" Which y'all was best friends, childhood, and Deku pretty much, switches his move. It says it's because of his damn quirk, his explosion quirk. Ever since he got that quirk, he thought he was high and mighty of everybody else and stuff. And Deku begins to start, going in on Deku, saying, "How you supposed to be the number one hero if you don't, be kind? How you gonna be the number one hero and stuff, and be it, bullying an asshole and bully your own best friend and stuff?" And he pretty much yells that karma will get to him, but pretty much says he pretty much stops his stuff and he says he's sorry for his whole action, what he just said and stuff. Which Bakugo's mom gets a little bit mad at Deku, but not too mad. She feels, like I said, he is playing with everybody's emotions right now. But pretty much, this is where she says it's okay, and she knows why he did that. And pretty much, Deku says he's surely sorry. He begs his knees and stuff, and acting all innocent. Which pretty much, this is where Bakugo is knowing that Deku is bullshitting all this, and he knows that he's going to talk to him later. He begins to say sorry to him. They pretty much say to go in the room and talk it out more. Now, as they go in the room, Inko and Bakugo's mom begin to start talking to each other. And this is where Deku pretty much brings Bakugo to the wall, holding him against his neck, and pretty much pulls out his knife, saying that you really had this told on me, right? You had to be a snitch, huh? Which pretty much Bakugo is scared. This is where Deku opens up, pretty much lifts up Bakugo's shirt and pretty much holds a knife at one of his organs, saying that if he cuts this, he's gonna be bleeding out in 0.1 second, and he's gonna die really quick and not very soon. Or I can just make it agonizing. And he pretty much points at the other organ and pretty much tells him that he can cut it off. Now, as that's happening, this is where pretty much Bakugo's in scaredness, and he pretty much is saying shit, shit, shit. Which, hold on. I'm sorry, I'm back, guys, but pretty much, yeah. Deku has the knife at Bakugo's other organ and creating a little blood, and he pretty much licks Bakugo's blood, saying that, you see, he's not the same old Deku that he once knew and loved. He's the Deku that is going to murder him if he crosses out a line again or ever tells on him or trying to ruin his life. Which this is where Deku pretty much, puts an illusion in Bakugo's head, and he feels like he's getting stabbed. Like, he feels the physical stab wound in him, and he feels like his whole organ's getting stabbed. And he pretty much smiling at Bakugo, saying that, you'd be dead right now if I wanted to kill you, which pretty much Bakugo is coughing up blood. And he pretty much starts being out the illusion. He starts sweating real hard, and he's peeing his pants, which pretty much Deku says the next time he does something like that, he's going to make sure it's going to be him and his mom being missing, which pretty much Bakugo knows what Deku says, and he's pretty much shuts his fucking mouth for now. But pretty much this is where Deku tells Bakugo to gets himself ready, and he be waiting out the door, which pretty much Bakugo rechanges stuff, and he starts heading downstairs. This is where Deku pretty much says that we made our differences and now we're friends again, which pretty much this is where Inko and Bakugo's mom is happy for the whole thing, and pretty much they talk and stuff, and yeah, hug, kiss, kiss, and all that. But pretty much after that, this is where Deku pretty much is walking home with his mom, and pretty much he's head upstairs saying that he's tired. And as she says, okay, this is where he's in his room, and he hops on his computer, and he pretty much has a secret workshop. This is where he pretty much brings out the table and brings out his stuff and begins to start working on his latest projects and stuff. And he also switchbacks and pretty much goes on his computer and do some Bitcoin and make money and stuff. He has a secret identity, and he has his own bank account, because once he get the set, he's gonna get his mom and also the Legion gang out of the places and have them live luxurious. Sorry, I'm back, guys. It was a big problem, but let's continue. Pretty much, the whole Inko and Bakugo, all that, they made up and stuff. Pretty much, Deku already warned him and threatened him. Pretty much, yeah. And pretty much Deku goes home and hop on the computer. Yeah. Okay, so basically, as he's on the computer doing Bitcoin stuff, making a lot of money, this is where pretty much Deku breaks the stock market and gets to 10 billion, which no one doesn't know about him or know he's the anonymous person who made this much money. But pretty much, this is where Deku pretty much is saying, damn. And he pretty much gets the call text message of the guy saying that to meet him at the park, which pretty much just where Deku do. Now, as he's at the park, this is where his friend and the leader of the Legion is pretty much following Deku quietly and stuff, which Deku knows that he's pretty much following him, and he just lets it happen. This is where Deku pretty much is talking with the guy, and the guy pretty much says that he pretty much talks about the incident at the facility and pretty much calls Deku of Subject Zero, which pretty much Deku instantly looks up and not surprised. It pretty much smiles and says, "So, you're from that facility," which pretty much the scientist guy or the guy in suit says, "Oh, we know much more about you, Deku. We know where you live. We know your friends. We know about the group, about that Legion you hang out. What's that group called? Oh yeah, the Legions. I know a lot about it. We also know that your mom is having another child, which pretty much." Oh my god. Sorry, I'm back again. Like I said, goddamn situation. But let's get this done. Pretty much, this is where, the guy pretty much knows everything, and he pretty much talks about how Inko is having a second child, which this is where Deku knows the truth too, and pretty much he holds a knife at the guy's throat, saying, "What do you want from me?" Which the guy says, "Oh, calm down, calm down. We're not here to threaten you or anything. We're just here to tell you that we will be coming to see you next time, and also we will want you to come back because you are our, you could say, our subject in our pride possession. So we'll be contacting you next time." Which pretty much Deku says whatever, and he gets up and he leaves. Which this is where he says he will be calling Deku later on. But pretty much this is where Deku walks pretty much out of there. And as he's walking, this is where he tells the gang leader, well, his brother or friend to come out, his best friend to come out, which he pretty much says, "So you knew I was there all along?" Which pretty much Deku says, "So you heard everything, right?" Which the Legion, he's saying that we should pretty much just dealt with the people right now and just go kill them. Which pretty much Deku says, "No, don't bother. They probably half of those people is on the drug. And if I do, then 10 times ahead of them. They're probably right now suffering from the effects. We're gonna have to wait for the effects to go off, but they probably take it every day." Which, as he's saying that, this is where Deku is telling him that. Which this is where Deku says that we're gonna have to be 10 times ahead of him. Which he says, "What do you mean?" Which this is where Deku says that he's going to have them at the same level with him. Now, as that's happening, this is where Deku pretty much is going home, and Inko is asking where was Deku at, which Deku says he just went out for a run and stuff, and she pretty much says, "Oh, okay, make sure to just text her or let her know," which Deku says he knows. And pretty much they go to sleep. Now, this is where Deku meets up with All Might, and as he's meeting with All Might, he's pretty much talking to All Might, and All Might pretty much says to him that they're gonna get ready for the 2 months workout, and pretty much he wants to see well, pretty much he tells Deku that he has to get his body physical so he can have his quirk, or to fully be prepared for the quirk. Now this is where Deku takes off his shirt. He has shorts. Well, take off his shirt and shoes, basically just having jeans on, and he pretty much sees Deku. He sees Deku pretty much fitted, and he pretty much says, "Oh, so you've been working out?" Which Deku says, Yeah, I've been exercising and stuff and all that." Which All Might says, Okay, well, I guess I'll just give you my quirk right now and see if you can, handle it and digest it." But pretty much he takes out his hair and tells Deku that this is the pass his quirk on. Now this is where Deku pretty much eat the hair, and he pretty much waits for it to process through his body and stuff. Now as that's happening, this is where Deku, as he eats the hair to get the quirk, this is where his brain and the quirk works together and starts combining with each other. And this is where Deku begins to start feeling everything. Like his brain is going to third eye now. So he's pretty much having the third eye open. And as he's having his third eye open, this is where he's pretty much falling to the ground, and he's just like breathing all hard and saying, "I feel the sand. I feel everything about it." Which pretty much this is where All Might saying, "Are you okay?" Which this is where Deku gets up and says, "Yeah, man, that process was a little tough." Which pretty much Deku pretty much unlocks his brain out to 100% top peak. Like if you say 100%, it's now at like 1000%, or you could say infinite now, or limitless now. You could say, well, infinite. This is where Deku pretty much feels everything. He can hear more now. He's kind of like Superman, but not at the same time. He's still human, you could say. Now this is where Deku pretty much is like hearing everything, and his senses is like he can smell like the dog. He can smell the dog food, like terrible dog food that the owner's feeding outside. He can smell hot dog. Like he pretty much got that. He got his senses up, so his four senses is just outmassed, and he's right now controlling it and stuff. And he pretty much figure out how to do it, and he pretty much can see his surroundings and see what's behind him, even if he's not looking behind him. Which he's saying, "Huh, okay." Now this is where All Might says, "Okay, well, we're gonna do this training, and then we're gonna see if you can do it." Which this is where Deku does the 2 months, but he pretty much gets it all done in 1 month because he's been already using the quirk and knowing how to do it and understand it and how to percent use it and stuff. And he pretty much figure out how to use full cowling. So this is where All Might pretty much tells Deku to test it out, and this is where Deku pretty much uh gets into a fighting stance position, and he pretty much uses his full cowling, which All Might is surprised that Deku did it, and also this is where Deku does a roadhouse kick, and pretty much create like a wind barrier, and pretty much destroys the ruckus that he stacked, and pretty much make it explode everywhere. This is where All Might is shocked that Deku just used 90% of One for All, which as he does it, this is where All Might is shocked that Deku can use 90%. Now, this is where All Might is surprised and shocked and saying, "Wow, kid, you actually sees my expectation," which Deku is saying, "Yeah, so am I worthy?" Which All Might says, "Of course you are. You just blew my expectation," which, as that's happening, Deku is, happy about it, showing his excitement and stuff, and pretty much smiling about it. Now, after that, this is where Deku says that he has to do some other things. So he asks All Might permission. Can he just for the next month? Can he just do his stuff? Which All Might says, of course. And pretty much he tells Deku to make sure to keep up on his training, which Deku says he will, and they pretty much go. And All Might says he will be seeing him in the entrance again. Now, as that's happening, this is where Deku pretty much goes to the bit marketing thing, and pretty much he goes in. Now, as he goes in, this is where he sells all his stuff, and this is where he goes in to pretty much get the black card. You know how millionaires get a black card of their richness. Now, this is where Deku's going in, and as he's going in, he's pretty much walking with the Gang of Legions, and they don't have like cool clothes or it's kind of like their clothes are a little bit raggedy like this, but pretty much this is where Deku goes in, and he pretty much is um walking into the bank place and pretty much says his name, and he's the guy who has 10K, and says the name, his username, which the guy says, "Oh, so you're the guy," which Deku says, "Shh, keep it quiet, I don't want no one to know," which as that's happening, this is where one of the guys who was trying to look into Deku to, form a business or hire him, pretty much hears that the username saying, "So that's him? Alright." And this is like a very wealthy man of or business thing. But pretty much this is where Deku be given the black card, and the guy says that it'll be accessed today, and he can use how much of the amount of money he wants. There is no limit for him, which Deku says thank you, and he pretty much goes. Now, as he's going, this is where the Black Legion is saying where we're going next, which Deku says, "Where do you think we're going? We're going to get a better house, and we're also going to get better clothes," which, as that's happening, this is where they go to the golf place, or go to the outfit place, and they get better outfits, better upgrade outfits and stuff. So their outfits they have now is much better clothing and stuff, and they're pretty much excited and saying hell yeah. And this is where Deku says to get the booze and stuff ready, and they get the stuff and all that. And this is where Deku shows them their new headquarters and hangout, and it's like this big apartment place. So yeah, Deku pretty much bought the apartment place because it costs like 1,000. So he pretty much owns the whole building. He's the manager there. He owns that shit, and pretty much the top of the rooftop. This is where he shows them the place and stuff, and shows them their rooms. They have their own each apartment room, so they don't have to like share it, and they're all like happy, excited and stuff. And Deku shows the room with the gang member Legion, the leader and his girlfriend, saying that this is their room. They have the balcony, which she's hugging Deku, saying thank you, Deku. And the guy saying, "Wow, bro, you didn't have to do this for us." Which Deku says, "Oh, trust me, he has enough money." Which he's saying how much, which Deku tells him the price, like how much he has, and he said, "You're in the millions? You're in the billions?" Which he's saying, "Yeah, I'm a billionaire." Which he's saying, "Holy shit." Which this is where Deku sends them each 1,000, saying that this is their money. And Deku is like, being really generous to his friends, like his best friends and friends and shit. Which they're all just like shocked and telling Deku, you don't have to do this. Which Deku's saying it's alright and saying let's have a party. Which this is where they're having a party. Now, after this is where Deku pretty much heads out on a date with the teacher. And the teacher's pretty much, out with Deku and she's talking to him and stuff and they're having a conversation, hitting it off again. And Deku, is, they're kind of like sex buddies because I didn't tell y'all, but they pretty much fucked already. But pretty much this is where Deku is talking to her and stuff and they're having a good evening. This is where the businessman come in and says, ah, Mizuki Midoriya, I would like to have a word with you, which Deku looks at him and says, oh, okay. Well, I'm kind of busy. He says, oh, we can wait, which he says, I'll be sitting over there, which Deku says, all right, hold on, can you give me a minute? Which she says, yeah, I gotta use the bathroom. So Deku goes. This is Deku shakes his hand and pretty much he has a talk with them. Now, as he's having a talk with them, this is where they pretty much knows that he's the guy who's the new billionaire, the new hotshot, that knows the plans and stuff, and pretty much asks Deku, will he join him for his business job and, work for them. And he can get a seat at one of the tables. Which Deku's saying, you mean a council? Which he's saying, yeah, because we saw your skill and we know you can, do it. And this is like one of the high corporation. Like they can do some dark shit if they want to. That's how powerful they are. This is where Deku thinks about it. He says, all right, I'll take you on your deal. Might as well. Do I have anything important or big? Which he says, oh, nothing important. When we do need you, respect for you to, fulfill your deal, which Deku says, yeah, and he pretty much looks at the contract and sees what's the cut of his percentage, and Deku says, 40%? How about 50-50? And I promise you I'll make y'all the most rich, the most wealthy for life, which pretty much the guys look at him and he pretty much says, I don't know about this, which Deku says, come on, I promise y'all to make a deal. Pinky promise, which the guy starts laughing, saying, alright, 50-50, which he scratches out and does 50-50, which Deku signs the contract and it's pretty much done. This is where Deku says he will be going back to sea, and he pretty much, the guy says he will contact him tomorrow for the building and where his office and stuff will be at, which Deku agrees. Now, after that, this is where Deku pretty much gets picked up by the limousine. They pretty much start going, which the guy shakes his hand and saying that he's going to be showing him around. He wants to show him first, and pretty much Deku looks around the office and stuff. As he's looking around the office and stuff, this is where Deku is pretty much looking around and see his office and see his stuff and all that. Which this is where Deku tells him that does he have to wear a suit here, where he's at this workplace. Where he says, "Oh no, you can wear any outfits you want. It's perfectly fine with you since you're one of the council seat." Which Deku says, "Oh, cool, all right." And this is where the guy gives him the paper of what he's going to be doing and what he has to do, basically. And Deku pretty much says, "Oh, all right, I got this." Which the guy says, "All right, just let me know. Just make sure to send me the files and stuff when you're done." Which Deku says, "All right." Now after that, this is where Deku pretty much is doing the work, and he already completes it, and he pretty much is bored and wondering if he should just stay here or just go home. But pretty much this is where his secretary comes in, and she's pretty much like a young hot girl. And she says, "Hi, I'm your secretary. My name is Lucy." Which Deku looks at her up and down, and he pretty much smiles and says, "Well, nice to meet you, Lucy. So you're my secretary?" Which she says, "Yeah, I'll be handling your work, your calls, and all that." Which Deku says, "Okay." And also other things, which he makes a smile, which she begins to blush and says, "What kind of other things?" Which Deku jokes around and says, "Not those kind of things. You have a dirty mind. I mean, like, pretty much like other stuff that I need." Which she says, "Oh, yeah." Which she starts laughing, and Deku starts laughing. And pretty much he shakes her hand. Now, this is where Deku pretty much gives her the paper and says that he's already done. And he's going to just go out for a bit or just go home. Because, keep in mind, he's still a student. And he's right now just going to high school. He's about to go to high school after this month, which she pretty much says, "Oh, I see," which Deku says, "Yeah." Which she's shocked that he's still in high school. But Deku tells her to, like, keep it down because he doesn't want people to know. But he also don't care. But pretty much she keeps it down and, she keeps it a secret and they starts, forming a good bond, a good working relationship bond. But after that, this is where Deku is pretty much leaving, and his limousine opens up the car door for him, and he pretty much says to stop at this place, which he does. Now, as he stops at this place, this is where he heads in the place, and pretty much this is where the Legion gang are all hanging out. One's playing on the Xbox while the other one's joining him, and they're complaining about each other, how one is cheating and how one not. The other one is just sitting on the couch on his phone, and the other one's just asleep. This is where also the kids at the orphanage who's like joining them is also part of the apartment, so they have their own apartment houses and stuff, and they're actually doing better. Like they're still part of the Legion gang, and they murder people without no hesitation, but they're actually like living like legit lives now, like because Deku paid for their tuition, he paid for their you know he paid for their bills. He basically have them food, have food come in their house every day so they don't have to go out to get food. Yeah, he basically paid for all the shit. He basically got them set for life, so they don't have to worry about it. This is where the leader of the Legion is pretty much talking to Deku, and he's pretty much having a worried, or like pretty much Deku knows what's something wrong. He's saying what is wrong, which he's saying, oh nothing, this I'm quite grateful. This is thinking about something, thinking about stuff, which this is where his girlfriend says out that he wants to ask you, can you give him money so he can build have a mechanic shop build as for him of his own choosing. Like, can he have the funds to build his own mechanic shop and to run a mechanic business with motorcycles and stuff? Which this is and cars and motorcycles and stuff. Which Deku looks at him, and he pretty much gives him a serious look and saying, "So you want to run a business, a motorcycle business and stuff?" Which pretty much he's the Legion is he's pretty sweating, but Deku pretty much looks down and he hold the leader's shoulder and his best friend's shoulder and says, "Why you didn't tell me in the first place? I wanted to ask you, what do you want next?" Which pretty much he's saying, "Oh, uh, yeah, just that." Which pretty much Deku says, "I got you." Which he pretty much calls the company he's working for. He's pretty much saying, "Do you want me to? Can I have permission to focus on a part of a district land and run it?" Which pretty much the guy's saying, "Of course. You did get the fires already done, and pretty much we're making profit sales right now. So yeah." Which pretty much Deku orders like a certain place of an area where he can build the place, and the guy agrees and says they're gonna build that mechanic shop and pretty much make it good. Which Deku thanks him, and pretty much Deku says it's all done, and he pretty much start crying, a little bit showing a little tears, but Deku just starts smiling. Now after that, this is where Deku heads home, and pretty much he talks to his mom, and pretty much a split tells her the truth that he's a billionaire, which she's shocked and saying how, which Deku pretty much explained to her that he was doing Bitcoin, and he pretty much reached to like the highs of his limits, and he's pretty much like a billionaire and shit. Now, this is where he pretty much tells her the truth about the gang, about him buying a building for the orphanage and stuff, and she just starts, knowing the information is shocked, but she's also proud of her son that, you know, she's helping other people out, you know, and if he doesn't have a quirk, he's helping people out. But this is where he also explains to her that he also met All Might and he got a quirk because he's going to tell the truth to his mom. In which Inko's also shocked that he got a quirk now, and she's just very proud of him and hugs him. This is where he also explains that he works for a company now, and pretty much he's one of the four chairs, and she's like really shocked, saying, "But ain't you too young?" But this is where Deku says he's perfectly fine, and he's going to make sure they live perfectly fine, and he's alright. Like he's fully energized, he's been eating healthy and stuff, and she's pretty much just shocked, but she glad that her son's doing alright. This is where pretty much Deku tells her that they're gonna be moving soon because he pretty much found a better place, which Inko says a better place, and she pretty much says, which Deku says yeah, and he pretty much told Inko that she won't be by herself because her friend is gonna be with her because she also got them the same place too, and it's better. Which Inko is shocked, and Deku says yeah. Now this is where the moving day, and this is gonna be the last day of the month. This is where they move, and as they're moving, this is where Bakugo is already at the new place, where Bakugo and his mom is we're at with Inko, and they're at this like fancy rich neighborhood. Like it's a rich neighborhood with like the top rich billionaires people, and a lot of shit. But pretty much this is where Bakugo's mom and they're living there, and Deku lives there with them. And this is where Bakugo looks, and well, pretty much is there, and he looking around and he sees a girl he likes, and she looks gorgeous, and she's like a billionaire's daughter, but she looks gorgeous pretty much. But this is where, as Deku, Bakugo's looking at her, he's also looking at her as saying, "Damn, she got some ass," which Deku was right beside him saying, "Yeah, you got that right." Which pretty much, this is where Bakugo said, "What the hell?" Which Deku is saying, "Oh, calm down. I live here too now." Which Baku's saying, "Oh yeah, I forgot." Which this is where Deku says, "Yeah, you should be grateful, but also, I already gave your mom some money and you some money, so yeah." Which this is where Bakugo asks why he's doing this. Which Deku says, "I just want to let you know that we're now friends and family. We're brothers." But this is where Deku pulls him close and does a whisper, saying, "And also, I don't want to lose you off my sight because I never know what you might do." Which Bakugo is scared, and Deku says, "But keep that in mind." But after that, this is where um the rich families starts knocking on Deku's door, and also Bakugo's door, and they begin to say, "Oh, welcome to the neighborhood," stuff. But more people comes to Deku house because they know Deku. They know that he's in one of the four chairs. One of the people, some of the people who live there, like some of the dads, works at one of the four chairs, so they're part of the chairs too. So they know Deku. They know Deku. So they're pretty much it. Having a bringing them over to cookout. They're all there, partying and stuff and talking to Deku, saying, "Yeah, it's real good." And they're talking about the business and stuff, and that they're saying that he's quite young, which Deku, being intelligent, talking really intelligently smart and stuff, and showing his good side, which they're all saying, "Wow, amazing! No wonder why the Sherman picked you, like the Sherman, like the higher up guy, like you could say the boss, pretty much picks Deku." And Deku saying, "Yeah." This is where the girls are also like talking to each other, and the brothers with the sisters and all that talking. And pretty much this is where they see Bakugo, and Bakugo is pretty much there, just like absolutely bored and pissed off a little bit. Which one of the girls thinks that Bakugo's cute, and they start going to Bakugo asking if he wants to hang out with them, like to go drink and stuff. Which Bakugo agrees, and starts going with them. And Deku notices, but he doesn't mind because Bakugo's just gonna, have a good time. Which this is where Deku, after done talking to the guys, he pretty much, tells his mom to have a good time, and they start, um, Deku start going with them. Now, as he's going with them, this is where he meets, Todoroki head on, with the engine quirks, but pretty much this is where he meets him. Well, yeah, the engine boy with the quirk, and he pretty much starts talking to him and stuff, and they're having a good bond and talking. Deku pretty much shows his intelligence off, and he's saying, "Wow, you're really smart. Like you're smarter than me." Which Deku's saying, "Nah, you can get up to that level too if you work hard." Which the guy's laughing and stuff. And, Deku's making friends. But yeah, after that, the next day comes. Deku pretty much gets dressed and he starts heading to the UA, the entrance exams. But pretty much he gets in the limbo and get Bakugo a ride too. And Bakugo's, chilling in the limo and stuff and pretty much just sleeping while Deku's in the limo. He's pretty much doing the files and work on his laptop because he has it on in the limbo. And he's pretty much doing all the work on the laptop. And he just gets it done. Sends the files to the boss guy. Well, to, the boss guy. And pretty much completes another project that they needed to get done. Already done in one day. But pretty much after that, this is where Deku pretty much gets off the limo and wakes Bakugo, tells him to get his ass up. We gotta go, and pretty much goes in there. Now, everything happens as the same. Pretty much the lift up, but Deku lifts up the weights much higher since he has the all from, the one for all quirk. So he pretty much used full counting to lift that weights up, 10 times his weights and stuff. So yeah, and the IQ, very intelligent. He actually got a recommendation from college and also the engines and science, like from each different of the UA high. So if he doesn't, make it as a hero, like as a hero student, then he can just do one of those things, But pretty much after that, this is where Deku listens to the guy, and pretty much he says, "On your mark, get set, go." And Deku starts using full cowling, and he pretty much pulls out his knife and starts charging at the robot, stabbing them one by one and stuff. And he's merging the weapon together too to make it strong. This is where he throws the knife at the robot, and the robot gets pierced by it, and it starts to ricochet and hitting our robot, and comes back to Deku, and Deku catches it, which he has that ability to do it since he has infinite brain power. So yeah, he can do telekinesis, pretty much, and do other sorts of stuff, including he has his third eye open. So yeah, he's pretty powerful right now. But pretty much this is where Deku is going, and pretty much as he's going, he pretty much thinks he's destroyed enough robots and he's about to leave it till he hears a girl screaming. And he hears Uraraka screaming. This is where he pretty much says shit, and he pretty much goes with quick speed and picks up Uraraka and gets her into a safe spot and asks if she's okay, which she says yeah. This is where Deku jumps up as original canon and does the short smash, and pretty much he destroys the robot, but it doesn't injure his arm like that bad because Deku knows how to do it right for his arm to not, be injured or broken at all. This is where Deku lands on his feet and pretty much says, whew. And he pretty much starts to walk away. And pretty much the teachers are writing down Deku performance, and pretty much Deku goes, and All Might is smiling saying, and even more impressed of Deku. But after that, this is where Deku is home, and the next day he wakes up and he gets the letter saying that he passed and he actually reached first. And went past, pretty much beat All Might score, as you could say, yeah. But this is part 1 of what if Deku was in the Legion gang, was a Legion, and also had, you could say, was limitless or infinite brain power, you could say. But yeah, Keisha and Gia, thanks for watching and peace out.
It looks like you lost another one.